Alright, New York Code Rules and Regulation 255, Transmission Distribution of Gas, 601, Scope Operations. Alright, Sections 255, 603 through 629 permit prescribed minimum requirements of operation pipeline facilities. No person may operate a segment of pipeline unless it is operated in accordance with this part. Each operator shall prepare with a file a detailed written operation maintenance plan complying with the provisions before operations. Pipeline system comments. Comments. It must be reviewed, updated by the operator intervals not exceeding 15 months, but at least each one's calendar year. Appropriate parts of the plan with the kept locations when operation maintenance activities conclude. Each operator shall establish and maintain maps of the transmission lines, distribution mains maps, and record service lines necessary to administer the operating maintenance plan. Each operator shall satisfactorily conform with the program submitted. The Commission may require the operator to amend its operating maintenance plan necessary to provide reasonable level of safety. Operator qualification section prescribes the minimum requirements of operator qualification individuals covered with the task pipeline facility. Each operator shall have the file written qualification program. Program shall include the provision to identify cover tasks, ensure thorough elevation of individuals performing cover tasks, allow individuals not qualified pursuant to the section to perform cover tasks direct or observed by individual is qualified, evaluate individual with the operator reason believe the individuals performing the cover task contributed to the incident requiring submission to report pursuant to 255-801B of the depart. Otherwise, significant judgment of the operator evaluate individual operator has reason to believe that the individual is no longer qualified to perform the cover task, communicate change with the effect of the cover task to individuals performing those tasks, identify the cover task and intervals with the evaluation of the individual's qualifications as needed. After December 16, 2004, provided training is appropriate to ensure individuals performing cover tasks if the necessary knowledge and skill to perform the task manual to ensure the safe operation pipeline facility. 9. After December 16, 2004, provided notification department of the operator significantly modified by the program and the department has verified that it complied with the section. Such notification shall be made with the U.S. Department of Transportation in accordance with Title 49 CFR Section 192.805.01. Each operator may maintain records to demonstrate compliance with the section. Qualified records shall include identification qualified individuals, identification cover tasks of individuals qualified to perform, date and current qualification methods. Records supporting individual current qualification maintained with the individual performing cover task records. Prior qualification records involved no longer perform cover tasks shall be retained prior to 5 years. Operators shall have written a qualification program in April 27, 2001. Operators must complete qualification individuals performing covered tasks October 28, 2002. Workers' performance history may be sole evaluation method of individuals who are performing cover tasks August 27, 1999. After October 2002, work performance history may not be used as sole evaluation method. After December 16, 2004, observation on the job performance may not be used as a sole method evaluation. Alright, Essentials Operating and Maintenance Plan. Each operator shall include a minimum of following operating maintenance plans, detailed instruction with employee with a career operating maintenance procedure during normal operation repairs procedure required to include with the provision welding, joining, corrosion control, upgrading, operation maintenance of the accidents and leaks in sections of this part, specifically programs relating to the facility presenting greatest hazards to public safety, either an emergency because of the extraordinary construction maintenance requirement of provision, periodic inspection, ensure the operating pressure for the appropriate of the class location, precautions to be taken when the excavation performed in the vicinity of the underground facility, procedures correct with a specified time frame, deficiencies found with any inspection, evaluation, reviews as etc. required by this part, criteria employed to determine the business districts of the purpose of the compliance in section 255, 723B1 of this part. Each employee criteria employed with identify the condition with the leak hazard, location, and necessity with the interval between surveillance to be short, and details operator plans can comply with requirements part written in on specific language. For example, the 255-805B of this part states each operator shall establish a means to determine appropriate surveillance interval leak locations under frost condition. These details are required subdivision when necessitate the operator to specify the established means. Instruction enable the person who performed the operating maintenance activity to recognize conditions, safety-related conditions subject to the reporting requirement of 255-831 of this part. K, making the construction record maps, operating history available to appropriate personnel. Procedures, startup and shut down any section of the pipeline manner designed to assure operation maximal operating pressure limited by the scrub of this part, plus build up allow the operation pressure limiting and control devices. Procedure maintaining compression station, including provisions isolating units, sections of piping and purging before returning to service. service, procedure for starting, operating, and shutting down gas compressor operator units, a procedure periodic review work done by operator personnel to determine the effectiveness, adequacy, proceed with normal operation, maintenance, modifying procedure, deficiencies found. Procedure adequate precautions, excavated trenches to protect the personnel with the hazards, unsafe accumulation of vapors, gas, making available the need with the excavation, emergency rescue equipment, including the breathing and apparatus of the rescue harness line, a respondent properly with a report, IS order, inside and out, near building, unless the operator's emergency procedure, earned 255-60-15-A3 of this part specifically apply with these reports are transmission lines of those operated by the condition with the operator's distribution system procedure following provided the safety of the operating design limited to exceeded, respond to investigation correcting the cause unintended closure of valves or shutdown, increase the decrease of the pressure flow rate outside the normal operating limits, loss of communication of operation, safe device, any other foreseeable malfunction, deviation from the normal operation, personnel unable to resolve the hazard to personal and property, checking variation for the normal operation after normal operations ended, sufficient critical location system to determine the continued integrity and safety of the operation, notify responsible operator personnel with notice of abnormal operation, receive the periodic review, responsible operator personnel to determine effectiveness of the procedure controlling a normal operation, taking corrective action where deficiencies are found, and S, implementing applicable control room management procedures required in section 255-631 of this part. Alright, it's 259-609. Change in class and location required study. At least once every 5 years will increase the population density and indicate the change of the class location segment existing steel pipeline operating hoop stress. It's more than 40% of the system yielded strength. The hoop stress corresponds with established maximal allowable operating pressure for segment existing pipeline non-concentrated by present class location operation shall immediately to study determine. Present location segment involved with the design, construction, testing procedure filed with the original construction, comparison with the procedures whose others required, present class location, applicable provision of this part, physical condition segment of the extent and certainty with available records, operation, maintenance history of the segment, maximal actual operating pressure corresponding operating hoop stress, taking pressure gradient into account, segment of the pipeline involved, the actual area effect of the population density, physical barriers other than factors may be limit further expansion of more density populated area. Change in class, location, confirmation, revision, maximum allowable pressure. Within 60 days of the required study, with comply with the operator shall submit to the program designing testing of the respective pipeline segment that's appropriate to production maximum certified operating pressure, therefore to conform respective current class location in accordance with the part of that declare the design testing operation respective pipeline segment to conform with the respective current class location. Where the hoop stress corresponds to established maximum allowable operation pressure segment of the pipeline commensurate with the class location segment satisfactory physical condition maximal allowable operating pressure segment pipeline must be confirmed and revised. Segment involved previously tested and at least 90% of the system yielded strength. Period shall be less than 8 hours maximal allowing operation pressure must be confirmed reduced corresponding hoop stress to 72% of the system yielded strength. Class 2 locations, 60% in Class 3 locations, 50% in Class 4 locations. If the segment has not been previously tested and is placed described in paragraph 1 subdivision, maximal allowable operating pressure reduce the corresponding hoop stress not more than this part. New segments of the pipe lines existing class location. If segment of the pipe involved with the has been not qualified operating paragraph 1 and 2 subdivision must be tested in accordance with the applicable requirements of the part. Maximal operating pressure must be established as equal to less than each of the following. Maximal operating pressure qualification testing 0.8 times the pressure class 2, 0.667 times the pressure for class 3, 0.555 times the pressure class 4. Maximal allowable operating pressure considered revised accordance with the section max not exceed the maximal operating pressure established before the confirmation or revision. Corresponding hoop stress may not exceed 72% of the system yielded strength in Class 2 location, 60% in Class 3 location, 50% in Class 4 location. Confirmation revision maximal operating pressure segment of pipeline in accordance with the sections is not precluded. The application of 55, 53, and 55.5. Confirmation revision maximal operating pressure required and studied under the 255-609 part must be completed with 18 months of chain of class location pressure reduction on paragraph B2 of the section with an 18-month period does not preclude establishing maximal operating pressure under paragraph B3 of the section at a later date. Alright, continuing surveillance. Each operator's procedure with a continuing surveillance facility to determine to take appropriate action concerning the class, location, failures, leak history, corrosion, substantial change of the cathodic requirements, other unusual operation, maintenance conditions, segment pipeline is determined the unsatisfactory condition, immediate hazard exists. Operators should initiate a program to recondition phase of the segment involved. Segment can be reconditioned, phased out, reduced maximum allowable operating pressure in accordance with 255-619A and B of this part. Emergency plans. Each operator shall maintain written procedures for the minimize the hazard resolve of the gas pipeline. Emergency minimum procedures must provide receiving and identified classified notice evidence of the required immediate response of the operator. Establish maintain adequate means of communication between the appropriate fire and police and public officials. Prompt effectiveness. Note that each for the type of an emergency include the following gas detected inside the near the building located near involved in the pipeline facility. Explosion occurred near directly involved in the pipeline facility. Natural disaster. Availability personnel, equipment, tools, and materials as needed. The scene emergency action is directed toward protecting people first, then property. Emergency shutdown, press reduction. Any section operating pipeline necessary to minimize hazard to life of the property, making safe the actual potential hazard to life of the property. Notifying appropriate fire, police, and public officials. Gas line, pipeline, emergency coordinate with the both plan response, actual response during an emergency. 9. Safety, restoring and service outages beginning under section 255-827 of the part if applicable as soon after the emergency as possible. 11. Actions is required to be taken control during an emergency in accordance with 255-631 part. Each operator shall furnish supervisor responsible with emergency action copy of the portion of the last additional emergency procedure established under the subdivision A of the section with the necessary to comply with the procedure. Train appropriate operating personnel with the knowledge of the emergency procedure, verifying that the training is effective, the review of the employee's activities, determining whether the procedures are effectively followed in each emergency. Each operator shall establish, maintain, liaise, and appropriate fire with the police, a public official, with the learn and responsibility procedure, resources of each government organization that may respond to the gas pipeline emergency, equating the officials with the operator's ability to respond with the gas pipeline emergency, to identify the type of the gas pipeline emergencies which operator identifies the official. 4. Plan how operator officials engage mutual assistance, minimize hazard to life and property. After offer annual training, mutual accepted location, volunteer fire department preparing appropriate to respond with the gas-related emergencies to the public department regarding recognition of the gas-related emergency. Non-volunteer fire departments and annually offer the assistance of the training coordinator in developing training programs, gas safety-related manners. Customer education information plan. Except for the operator perform gas system covered under subdivision J of the section of the each pipeline operator must develop and implement written continuing public education program that follow the guidance of the American Petroleum Institute recommended practice 1162. Operator programs must follow the general programs recommendation API 1162 to assess the unique attributes of the characteristics of the operator pipeline facility. Operators must follow the general program recommendations of APIRP 1162, but unless the operator provides justification program procedural manual as to why compliance with all certain provisions of recommended practices is not practical, not necessary. The safety operators program must specifically include the provisions dedicated to the public with the appropriate government organizational personnel engaged in the excavation related on the site. Use one call notification system prior to excavation of the damage prevention activities, possible hazards associated unintended with the release of gas pipeline facility. 3. Physical indications that such release have occurred. 4. Steps that have been taken in public safety event of gas pipeline release. 5. Procedures reporting such events. E. Program must include advise the affected municipality, school district, business representatives for the pipeline facility location program. The media must be comprehensive and necessary to reach all areas of the operator and transport gas. Program must conduct English for the other language commonly understood with a significant number of concentration of non-English speaking population operating areas. Operator existence of June 20th, 2005 must have completed written programs no later than June 20th, 2006. Exemption operator petroleum gas and petroleum air distributions has some having less than 25 combustors must complete with the development and documentation of the program no later than June 20th, 2007. The operator of petroleum gas system covered in subdivision J. The section must complete the development with written procedure June 13th, 2008. List the operator transport gas primary activity operator master meter petroleum gas system is not required to develop public awareness programs described in subdivision A through G in the section. Instead, the operator must develop and implement written procedure to provide customer public awareness message twice annually. If the petroleum gas system is located property of the operator does not control, the operator must provide similar message twice annually to the person controlling the property. The public awareness messages include script on the purpose, reliability of the pipeline, overview of the hazards of the pipeline and prevention measures, information about the damage prevention, how to recognize and respond to leak, and how to get additional information. Addition of the program shall include the annual distribution of plain language literature, news releases, commercial messages to advise the public of the importance of inspection, cleanings, and the fuel use of the chimney periodic basis, regardless of the fuel used, particularly when converting to gas usage, and they provide information identifying system with carbon monoxide exposure, including recommended remedial measures. Alright, maximum allowable working pressure steel and plastic pipelines. Each providing subdivision C with a new person may operate a segment of steel pipes. The plastic pipeline pressure that exceeds the lowest of the following: the design pressure weakest element of the segment determined according to the part. If the pressure obtained with the dividing the pressure segment with the tested construction is relevant, the plastic pipe, all location test pressure factor of 1.5, steel pipe operated at 100 psi gauge test pressure divided by the factor determined according to the following table. Highest actual operating pressure which the segment of the subject during the 5 years period of June, July 1st, 1970, unless the segment was tested in accordance with section 255, 505, and 507. Part during 5-year period segment upgraded in accordance with 55.5 and 55.7 of this part. Maximal allowable working pressure may not exceed maximal allowable working pressure on August 30th, 2011, with the maximal allowable working pressure determined using method. For the furnace well of the seal pipe, the pressure is equal to 60% of the mill tested pressure for the pipe with subject to the seal pipe other than furnace butt well. The pressure is 85% of the high test pressure for the pipe with subject to other mill test but installation test pressure. Determine operated the maximum safety pressure for the concerning history of the segment, particularly known for the corrosion and the actual operating pressure. No person may operate a segment with a paragraph A6 of the section ample with under overpressure protection devices installed on the segment in the manner to prevent maximal operating pressure from exceeding in accordance with the 255, 195 of this part. Nothing with other segment requirements. Section operator may operate segment pipeline found to be satisfactory condition. Consider with the condition operating maintenance history, highest actual operating pressure to its segments was subjected during 5 years prior to June 1st, 1970, subject to the requirements of 255, 611 of this part. Notwithstanding limitation A3 with the section operator may maintain previously established maximal allowable working pressure for a cathodically protected steel plastic pipeline, provided with the pressure increased above the highest pressure for the which subject during the last 5 years leakage surveyed. All leaks found are repaired in accordance with this part. Maximal allowable operating pressure, high pressure distribution. No person operating in some of the high pressure distribution system exceed the lowest following pressures applicable with the design pressure weakest element of the segment is determined in accordance with the part. 60 psi gauge segment for the distribution system of the designated operator over 60 psi gauge and left of the Shriveth line segment that is equipped with the Shriveth regulator, other pressure limited device to serve. Here's with a meets requirement of 255, 197C, 225 psi gauge segments for the cast iron pipe with which the reinforced bells and spigot joints, pressure limited to joint, can be subject without possibility of parting. Pressure departing of the operator with the maximum safety pressure, considering the history of the segment, particularly known with the corrosion of the actual operation pressure. No person operating a segment of pipeline with which paragraph A5 of the section, unless the pressure protective device are installed on the segment, manner of the prevent maximal operating pressure from being exceeded in accordance with section 255, 195 of this part. Minimum and maximum and minimum allowable operating pressure, low pressure distribution. No person operating the low pressure distribution pressure high enough to unsafe the operation connected to the proper adjusted low pressure gas burner equipment. Every person may operate a low pressure distribution pressure low, the minimum pressure safety continuing operation aimed with the connected property adjusted low pressure gas burner equipment can be assured. Each operator maintain pressure throughout the low pressure distribution system measured consumer end of the Shriveth line with not less than 4 inches of more than 12 inches of water gauge. Maximum daily pressure variations will not exceed the total range of 50% of the maximum pressure of the experience during the day at any point with the low pressure distribution system. Measure the consumer end of the Shriveth line. Overpressure protection must be set at sea levels above normal maximum operation. Present capacity overpressure protection device shall be sufficient to prevent pressure buildup in excess of 2 psi gauge on the low pressure distribution system. Alright, Motorization of gas. All gas transported in the transmission line and distribution lines operating at 125 psi gauge more en route storage fields V with the transmission pipeline transporter without an order from line May 5th, 1975 may adequately authorize complying with the subdivision C with the section so that any of the readily detectable public employees of the operator of the gas concentration 1/5 lower explosive limits above. All gas transported distribution mains except for the providing subdivision A and section service laterals adequate authorized complying with subdivision C with a section within the readily detectable public employee with the operating gas concentration 1/10 of the lower explosive limit above. In connection with which for the odorant combustible gases must comply with the following requirements. The odorants may be deleterious to the person material of the pipe. Product of combustion of the odorant may be toxic when breathed. May they be corrosive or harmful for the material to which the product's combustion will explode. Odorant may not be soluble in water to the extent greater than 2.5 parts to 100 parts by weight. Odorization equipment must be designed to maintain and ensure the required odorant level of the gas under various conditions. Equipment must be installed with the design cause nuisance to nearby residents by escaping odorant fumes. Each operator shall establish a procedure to conduct periodic sample of the combustible gas of the assumed proper concentration order in accordance with section appropriate record. Odorization practice shall be maintained. Every operator shall maintain records set forth in the types of odorization equipment, odorants used, and ratio odorant to gas and locations of the odorization stations. Alright, tapping pipelines under pressure. Each tap main on a pipeline under pressure must be formed by a crew qualified to make hot taps. Purging of pipelines. Purging should be carried out with a purging principle and practice described in Section 10.3 of the published by the American Gas Association Incorporated. Alright, control room management. A. General. The section to each operator of the pipeline facility with the controller work with the control room manager with the controls all part of the pipeline for the SCADA system. Each operator must have the written control management procedure to implement the requirements section except for each of the control room where the operator activates are limited to either both distribution with less than 250,000 service transmission with the compression state for the operation must have the file written procedure implementing only subdivision regarding fatigue with regarding complying with the deviation of the section. Procedure required of the section must integrate with the appropriate operating emergency procedures required in section 255, 605, and 615 of this part. Operator must develop the procedures not later than August 1st, 2011. Must implement procedures according to the following schedule. Procedures required in subdivision B, paragraph C5, D2, and D3 subdivision F and G of the section must be implemented no later than October 1st, 2011. Procedures required, paragraph C1 through 4, D14, subdivision E of the section implemented no later August 1st, 2012. Training procedures required for subdivision H section must be implemented no later than August 1st, 2012, except that any of the training required by any other subdivision of the section must be implemented no later than the deadline of for that subdivision. B. Roles and responsibility. Each operator must define the roles and responsibility controlled during normal, abnormal, emergency operation conditions. Controller promptly appropriate response operating condition. Operator must define each following. Controller's authority responsible to make decisions, take action during normal operation. Controller's role, the abnormal operation condition, detect the event of the controller is not first detected the condition, and include the controller's responsibility to take specific action, communicate with others. Control rule during emergency. If the controller if is not first detected the emergency, include with the controller's responsible to take specific action, communicate with others. Method of requiring control shifting changes and to hand over responsibility with the controller's roles and responsibility qualification others authority to direct and supersede specific technical action with the controller provide adequate information. Each provider must provide a controller information tools process with the procedures necessary for the controller to carry out the roles responsibility of the operator has defined perform each of the following. Implement section 1489, 11.1, 11.3 American Petroleum Institute recommended practice 1165. Whenever the SCADA system is added, expand with the replaced unless the operator demonstrated with a certain section 1489, 11.1, 11.3 with the APIR recommended practice 1165 or not practice with the SCADA system use conduct point-to-point verification SCADA to play with the related field equipment to added or removed with any other change of the effective pipeline made with the field equipment that's got a display. Test very internal communication plan adequate means of the manual operation pipeline safety at least once each calendar but in the intervals not exceeding 15 months. Test any of the SCADA system at least once each calendar year, but intervals not exceeding 15 months. Establish, implement, proceed with different controller. Assumes they include the content information exchange. Fatigue mitigation. Each operator must implement following methods to reduce risks associated with controller fatigue that could inhibit the controller's ability to carry out the rules with the responsibility of the operators and fine. Establish shift lengths. Schedule rotation, provide controls off-duty time sufficient to achieve 8 hours of continuous sleep, educate control supervisor fatigue mitigation strategies, how off-duty activities contribute to fatigue, train controller supervisor recognize effective fatigue, establish maximum limit of controller hour service, which may provide emergency deviation maximum limit necessary for the safe operation pipeline facility. Alarm management, each operator's SCADA system must have the written alarm management plan to provide effective controller response with alarms. Operators' plans must provision and review the SCADA safety related to alarm operation using process to ensure alarms are accurate and support safe pipeline operation. Identify at least once calendar year month points affecting safety has been taken in the scan of the SCADA host. Have alarms inhibited generated false alarm, or have they forced manual valves or a period of time extending the required associated manual maintenance operating activities. Verify correct safety record set payment values alarm description at least once each calendar year. Intervals not exceeding 15 months. Review alarm management plan paragraph at least once each calendar year. Intervals not exceeding 15 months. Determine effectiveness of the plan. Monitoring the content and volume of the general effective directive required with each of the control at least once each calendar year, but intervals not exceeding 15 months that ensure that the control has sufficient time to analyze the incoming alarm, address and deficiencies identified in implementation paragraphs 1 through 5. Subdivision change management. Each operator must ensure that the change of the could affect the control room operations control with the control room personnel performing each of the following. Establish communication between control room representative of the operating management, associated field personnel planning and implementing physical change of the pipeline equipment configuration. Requires field personnel to contact control room with emergency conditions exist when making field changes that affect the control room operation. And 3. Seek control room or control room management participation planning prior to implementation significant pipeline hydraulic configuration changes. Operating experience. Each operator must ensure the lessons learned by the operating experience incorporated as appropriate within control room management procedures by performing each of the following. Few instances that must be reported pursuant to Title 49, Part 191 to determine the control room acts control within the event and the serve of the correct where the necessary deficiency related controller field, fatigue, field equipment operation, relief device procedures, SCADA system configuration, SCADA system performance, include lessons learned operation experience of the training program required in this section. Training. Each operator must establish control room training program with a review of the training program content identified with potential improvement at least once each calendar year with the intervals not exceeding 15 months. An operating program must provide with the training each operator controller to carry out the roles and responsibilities defined by the operation addition of the training. The training program must include the following elements: responding to abnormal operation conditions simultaneously in sequence with the computer simulated non-computerized tabletop method of training controllers to recognize abnormal conditions. Training controllers responsible to communicate under operator's emergency response procedure. Training provided with the controller with knowledge of the pipeline system, especially during the development of the abnormal operating conditions. For pipeline or operating steps that periodically and infrequently either provide opportunity to control the relevant procedure in advance of their application. Control room team training is acceptable with the control of the other individuals defined by the operator would responsibly be expected the operating collaborate with control of the personnel during the normal and abnormal emergency situations. Operator must comply with the team training requirement subdivision no later than January 23rd, 2018. Complying with the deviation, operator must maintain review during inspection records to demonstrate the compliance requirements of the section, and documentation demonstrating the deviation of the procedure required for the section necessary for the safe operation and pipeline facility. That was 631, control room management. And that completes the operations part of Title 16, Department of Public Service, the Gas Utilities Suburb, Chapter C, Transmission Lines and Distribution System of Gas Operations.